It's not enough to get it from a chart. It's different when you collaborate and you bounce things off each other. It really makes for a better patient outcome.
Now a message from Sun Pharmaceuticals. For patients with locally advanced basal cell carcinoma who are not candidates for further surgery or radiation, hedgehog pathway inhibitors offer a targeted systemic approach. Staying current on these therapies can help you expand options for appropriate patients. Welcome to That's Derm Good. Today, my guest is Tracey Mancuso. Tracey is the founder of the Derma Room. Welcome, Tracey. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. This is so exciting.
Yes. I'm so excited to chat with you. You've got so much experience behind your belt in the aesthetic space. I would love to just hear about, what got you into dermatology, into aesthetic medicine in the first place.
Well, it's funny because I've been in this space now for 30 years, and I hate saying that because automatically you feel like a relic. But what brought me here was just a driving passion to really help people. And I thought, what do I love doing? And back then there was no aesthetic medicine, believe it or not. Again, I feel a little bit like a dinosaur saying that, but it was really just aesthetics at that time. And it was just the dawn of medical was coming in play. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm going to get into this space and I'm going to help patients. And then it started as a small aesthetic love and a love for doing it. And then it grew into collaborating with dermatologists and plastic surgeons and getting into the medical aesthetic space. And here we are today. And I really can't imagine doing anything else.
I love that. I feel like the aesthetic space, well, dermatology and aesthetics has just grown so much and it's evolved. It's so funny to see all the trends that are happening and what is going on.
It,
What is something that has changed the most in aesthetic dermatology since you began?
I would say there's two things. The
Mhm.
first is collaboration, and it's the collaboration between all of the different modalities within aesthetic medicine. And modalities, I mean the different practitioners. So we're looking at, the esthetician, the nurse practitioner, or the PA, or the dermatologist, or the plastic surgeon. It's all now working together when at the very dawn of things, we
Mhm.
weren't working together. We were working in silos. And now it's really a collaborative effort. And the second thing is it's no longer about, beautification. Yes, we all want to look good, but it's all about health now, and it's skin health, it's longevity, it's rejuvenation. Those are all the things that we're looking at now as a group together, and that makes the best patient experience.
Mhm. I love that. I think that is really what it is all about is working together, collaborating. I love how you said that now you're seeing more of that collaboration. Can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing and how you're collaborating with, with the NPs, PAs, MAs, nurses, dermatologists in the offices?
Absolutely. So I also am a practitioner and I work at plastic surgery center, and we have dermatologists there, we have nurse practitioners, and even just today we have a patient that's going between two of us as practitioners. And the nurse practitioner wrote me and said, I'm seeing this patient. What are your thoughts? We jumped on a call, had a conversation about what I've seen, what she wants to do. We planned her treatment together, and she's seeing that patient. And I often do that. I'll sit down with our medical director, he's a plastic surgeon, and I'll say, this is the patient I'm seeing. You saw her for surgery. What did you see? What are the things I need to look for? It's not enough to get it from a chart. It's different when you collaborate and you bounce things off each other. It really makes for a better patient outcome depending on what the patient wants. So
Mm-hmm.
patient might come to you and say, post-surgically, I look great. I just want to maintain. And I can sit down with our plastic surgeon and our dermatologist and say, let's talk about her skin health. Let's talk about his aftercare that he needs to maintain his results. Whatever it is, we can sit down together and make a plan. And then the patient also knows you're working as a team, which is huge.
Yeah.
It's like you've got that team behind you, right? Like we do. We
Yeah.
have our hairdresser, our tailor, all those people that make us look good. It's the same thing, except in an aesthetic bag.
Hmm. So do you have those conversations with the patient there, or do you usually just kind of communicate with plastic surgeons or dermatologists later on?
Both. That's a great question. Sometimes if a patient's in my chair and I see something and I'm really not sure of it, I'll say, I'll be just 2 seconds. I'm going to go grab Dr. Gill and I'll go and grab one of the doctors. Or I might say to them, I'll get back to you. I'm just going to review your chart with him later on. But oftentimes before we start seeing that patient is when I have that conversation because they'll refer over to our team in the restorative department and in the rejuvenation department. We'll take a look and say, okay, this is the plan that we're thinking. What do you think? And it's a discussion. And I really
Mm.
love that because it just makes you also feel like you're not in a silo, like you're just making all the decisions on your own. You get to hear what other people think. It's a learning experience too, because
Mm-hmm.
where they come from sometimes is very different than when you're coming from.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I love those words, restorative and rejuvenation. It makes you kind of feel a little relaxed, like, oh, tell me a little bit about what that means and what types of clients you're seeing and how that really kind of fits with everyone really wanting to go into the more, I guess, healthier route versus just, oh, cosmetic.
Well, I used to see patients, and I've always been in sort of the dermatology plastic surgery world, and we used to always see people who came in to get fixed. So something needed to be fixed. My nose needed to be fixed. My cheekbones needed to be fixed. I looked tired. My jowls needed to be fixed. Now we're
Mm.
not seeing that. And we used to always see people coming in who are just of a specific age group. Now we're not seeing that.
Mm.
So now I'm starting to see young women and men coming in and saying, I want to make sure I get ahead of the aging process. I want to keep my skin looking healthy. I'm seeing on the other side of the spectrum patients in their 70s and 80s, and they're saying, I want to continue looking as healthy as I do and feeling as healthy. My skin doesn't absorb moisturizer like it used to. It doesn't feel as hydrated, and all of these things that they're experiencing as well. And it's more, again, about skin health.
Mm. Do you find you're educating a lot more about just even environmental factors? Like, yes, it's important to, worry about your skin health, but what else are you doing at home? Just coming in thinking that you're going to get a miracle cream that's going to fix everything.
We're doing so much education, especially because I love Instagram and I hate it. And I love TikTok, but I hate it because I can't tell you how many patients come in a day and they'll show you, they'll be like, oh, I saw this on TikTok. And if I take this and put this all over, I'm like, okay, no, no, no. Just because they're doing it on TikTok doesn't mean that you can do it at home. This isn't good for your skin. And so it's explaining and sitting down. I sit down with a skin chart and I show them the layers of skin. I explain what's happening in layman's terms. I'm not
Hmm.
going through an anatomy course with them, of course, but it's that education, that level of educating your patients that makes a huge difference. And so for practitioners, we have to come from a different mindset. Back, 20 years ago, we didn't have to do that. Patients came
Hmm.
to us because you're the professional, that's it. There wasn't any of this stuff going on. But
Yeah.
now there's a lot of that. And there's a lot of, influencers out there that are talking
Yeah.
about all the things they're doing. And it's not necessarily the right thing for that patient at the time.
Yeah. That makes sense. There is, and it's I don't know, they're so good at it that it really just
Yes,
sucks you in.
it
And it's
does. Every now and
hard
again,
to
it makes me think.
like, oh, is this a good trend? Are there any trends that you have seen that you're like, oh, I think I might try that?
Well, no, like as far as I think that I'll talk about the most ridiculous one is the taping thing. So I can't see how many people are taping their faces. And I get into like a little, time warp with it where I'm looking at all these taping videos because if you watch one for long enough, all of them come up.
Yeah.
And it amazes me where they put this tape, right? And yeah, uh, there's not a lot of those trends that I think are great. And thank God they're short lived usually, but
Hmm.
yeah, none
Yeah.
that have enticed me.
Yeah, I always wonder, like, where are they even coming up with this? Like, somebody's doing it, and then it's like three people do it, and then all of a sudden it's like a huge trend, and nobody has any like understanding of the origins of behind it or anything.
I know. I'm sure it's just a couple of glasses of wine, and that's how they came up with it.
Yes. Yes, somebody just trying to get some clicks, that's for sure. So, what keeps you passionate about this industry year after year when there's so many things that you have to kind of combat when it comes to like these trends?
Well, it's actually twofold. It's my patients and it's also the practitioners that I train.
Hmm.
So the more that I do things with them, so after a full day of patients, I'll see, 8, 9 patients in a day, and I should be exhausted. But I'm usually so wound up and excited and happy that I have to do something like go shopping or something. That's my excuse anyway. But I have to do
I like
something,
it.
right? To burn off the energy. And it's the same with training. When I, have the opportunity and the honor of training someone, I really take it very seriously. And it's just something that floats my boat. I love it. And that's what keeps me in this industry. Keeps me
Yeah,
in this industry because it keeps growing.
right. What do you focus on when you're teaching about lasers, energy-based treatments? Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing and with energy-based treatments and what that is?
So energy-based treatments is anything that you plug into a wall. So I always say if it plugs into a wall, that's my specialty. I'm all in. And with those, it's really about safety. It's about understanding the energy. So a lot of these manufacturers and distributors, they do a great job of teaching what I call buttonology.
Mm,
And you end up at the end of that training session being a buttonologist. So you know what button to push and
mm,
it will give you XYZ output. Is that the best for your patient? Not necessarily. So it's understanding what that energy source is, what it can do for the patient and the skin, and what the tissue interaction is. And that's really about mastering that
mm.
device and having that in your toolkit that you don't even need to look at a sheet that gives you parameters because you know right off the top of your head, if I do this, this is what my outcome is going to be. It's not that you're eliminating all risk. You're never eliminating all risk because you're dealing with humans, but there is less chance of having that when you master those things. And that's what I really teach in my courses isn't the basics and the
Mm.
buttonology. They can get that elsewhere, but it's understanding deeply that. And also the safety in skin for patients because it's amazing how many people don't know about skin. They don't learn it. And they don't teach it in medical school. They don't teach it in nursing. They don't teach it in depth in
Really?
aesthetics. It's crazy. It's just an overview. It's like, here's your 3 layers of skin and blah, blah, blah,
Mm.
blah, and on to the next. It's not, how deep everything is. How deep does things travel? What are the structures that are in there? And so really going in depth with that is what I focus on.
Yeah. How do you learn all of this? Is it just because of your experience, or are there more in-depth trainings that you learn from and that way you're able to teach others and train them how to understand how to really work those lasers and work with other patients?
It's a combination of having them in your hands and
Hmm.
using them, but the big thing is constantly learning and being open to learning. So people that you'll notice on all of my LinkedIn, everything like that, I never call myself a master. I'm not. Even after 30 years, I'm a humble student of this
Hmm.
industry, and it's keeping that humility and learning every day, reading, attending courses, learning from even I'll have somebody who's brand new out of school and I'll be teaching them something and they'll come up with a question and I'll look at them and say, I've never thought of that. And I've learned something today from them. So it's learning from even the most unlikely sources and
Hmm.
keeping that open mind, curiosity.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like I've always been like that as well. It's like, yes, you can be in the industry for a long time and you've got so much experience and so much knowledge behind your belt, but like I said, there's always something new coming up. There's always changes and we always have to be open and not be stuck in our ways because we see that often just
Yes,
in so many different areas, but also especially in healthcare, we see so many people are just stuck. Oh, this is how I've always done it. This is how it has to be
right.
done. Well, it doesn't always work for everybody. So I love that, being open-minded about learning and always being, willing to learn new things because there's always new things that are coming up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What do you think a misconception is that clinicians have about working with lasers or other energy devices?
So it's that once they get that basic training, they're ready to go
Mm,
because you're not. You're absolutely not. You really have to work with the device or the energy source for a period of time, so several patients before you start feeling comfortable. And comfort doesn't equate knowledge.
hmm.
So the way that you put something on somebody's skin doesn't mean you know how to do a treatment. It means that technically you know how to place a handpiece on the skin
Right.
or away from the skin. So it's all of those nuances that I usually see. And there's a graphic that I always start my courses with, and it's like all of you are starting down here. And then by the time you're done this course, you're going to feel like you're up here. You're going to be trudging along on that
Mm-hmm.
path. And then all of a sudden, you're going to hit an adverse event or something that you really weren't expecting in the skin. And that's when you're going to plummet down. You're going to feel like you know nothing. I shouldn't even touch this device again. And then they usually get upset and, they're writing to all their friends in the industry, their colleagues, what did I do wrong? Da, da, da. And then it takes time for them to learn and get themselves back out of there. So I said, instead of, leaving these courses and feeling like you're up here, just be a little bit more modest about it and really keep your mind open and keep learning
Mm-hmm.
along the way about this device and this energy source. And you won't have those pitfalls
Yeah.
rather than running when you first learn the one thing that you've learned from this device, which are basic settings usually.
Mm-hmm. Are you ever a guinea pig yourself to test them out?
Some, Sometimes I am, but I always say that the biggest compliment I can give someone is when I say, I would definitely lay on the lounger for you.
Okay.
you know, the
Yeah,
last
it
thing I
is a
need is some,
compliment.
some big thing on my face that I have to deal with. But
Hmm.
I have dealt with some pretty substantial adverse events with my colleagues through my colleagues, and
Hmm.
said to them, "Why did this happen?" And they said, "I really thought I was doing the right thing. I was
Hmm.
following the guide." I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
well, the guide's just one thing, the
Yeah.
patient's another.
Do you find it is really difficult on different skin types or skin colors?
Definitely, definitely. People don't account for that, and as an industry, we hijacked the Fitzpatrick skin typing. It
Hmm.
was never created for that. It was created just to see how skin will respond in sun. So you need more than that. You need to have, I use the Roberts scale, and the Roberts scale really helps you to decide what their wrinkle score is and what their scarring is and what their pigmentation scoring is, and get a complete picture of that patient before you proceed on with determining parameters. So if you're just relying on that one thing and skin type, and you say, and a lot of people don't even do the full skin typing, they just look at them and say, oh, that person looks light or dark. You can't
Hmm.
really do that. You need to know more about them.
Yeah. I think that makes it a huge difference too. I think there's a lot of people that are nervous to get a laser treatment done because they're afraid of, okay, is this going to work for my skin tone?
Exactly. Exactly. And the last thing you want is somebody that's just learning, sort of trying to figure it out from a
Hmm.
parameter sheet.
Right.
So for patients, they really want to ask, do you have a lot of patients that you've treated with my type of skin tone and
Yeah.
my skin conditions? Those are really good questions to ask from a patient standpoint.
Yeah, that was my next question was what questions should patients ask and how, because I feel like sometimes you go in and you're not necessarily talked into something, but obviously you want your practitioner to feel confident in what they're doing. But how do you go about it without sounding like, hey, do you know what you're doing? Have you done this before? Or have you, you know, so yeah, that is
Absolutely.
important.
It's really hard, especially because that's the one, I'm going to say, the dark side of our industry is the sales side of it. And obviously we're all in this to, make a living and, feed our families. We're not in here for just philanthropy, but the problem is that there is a section of our industry that is highly driven just by sales, and it's the amount of patients you can convert to treatments regardless of whether or not they're good for that treatment, because we're going to be featuring treatment XYZ this month and you have to sell all of
Hmm.
those kind of clinics really scare me, because patients then go in there and they're like, oh, I'm really being hard sold on it. And
Hmm.
in that case, a lot of times it's asking, why do you think this treatment is good for me? Can you explain what it will do to my skin and
Hmm.
how it will impact my skin? And what are the long-term effects on my skin?
Right.
Because those are things you really want to find out. And if they can't answer that correctly or effectively, then they don't know what they're doing.
Hmm. Yeah. It's kind of scary out there.
It is. And you know what? There was this big boom, especially when we came out of COVID. People decided, oh, aesthetics is easy. It's
Hmm.
easy to make money in. And they entered our field, and there was a big boom of aesthetics. And it's like, ooh. okay, what do we do with all these people? We need to educate them. We need them to bring the bar up to where all of us are. And so it's just to make sure that we go in and, help them to be better.
Yeah. Do you think that most aesthetic practices should have like a practitioner, like a licensed practitioner on staff? Or because I feel like there are a lot more of these little boutiques that you do want to question. You're like, okay, where is their experience coming from? And, who is in the clinic that actually, is running things, that knows what they're doing? Or is it just somebody that's kind of self-taught or went to school and decided that they wanted to open this up because they saw that there is, some money that they can make in it?
It is really challenging because depending state to state, and in Canada, it's province to province, the legislation is different
Mm.
and who can do what. And so even if you had a medical director, if they're not an active participating medical director, and I've seen this in some practices,
Hmm.
they'll say, oh, Dr. Smith is our medical director. We never see him. Well, that's
Yeah.
no good. What's he's just signing off on charts that he doesn't even know are happening. So there's a good and a bad with having somebody as the head, as long as they're active is what's
Mm.
really important. And then there should be recertifications on, your devices, because once you've been using them for a little while, we all get a little complacent with things. And so it's good to have refreshers on them. It's good to continue with your education to learn more about that device and all of the things that are evolving that they're learning about that device and that energy source. So all those things are so important.
Hmm.
And that's stuff that should be tracked on a legislative level, but is not.
Yeah.
So, but as a clinic, if you go in as a patient and you see that there's, two, three people in the clinic, you can always ask, can I ask for your credentials? Can I ask for, what kind of training that you've received? And people, if they're caught off guard and they don't know and they don't have training, usually you can tell that they're making it up or they don't have any. But most people will be more than happy. They're actually proud. Like if
Hmm.
somebody asks me that, I'm like, let me get my book.
Right.
You're in the best of hands, And I always
Yeah.
end my consults with that. When I'm doing a consult, I always tell them, you are in the best of hands. I will really look after you.
That's good. Now a message from Sun Pharmaceuticals. For patients with locally advanced basal cell carcinoma who are not candidates for further surgery or radiation, hedgehog pathway inhibitors offer a targeted systemic approach. Staying current on these therapies can help you expand options for appropriate patients. You want that reassurance, especially when it comes to doing a laser treatment. So tell me a little bit about the trainings that you're doing. So do you create these trainings? Do you collaborate with the laser companies, or how does that work when you're educating?
So there's several different ways that this happens. So through Derma Room, it's actually a collaboration of other practitioners in the industry. I didn't want all of the content from Derma Room to be just me. It's not an all about me show. I'm not the only person in the industry that knows stuff. There's so many other people that are equal or better. So I thought, okay, I'm going to collaborate with all of my peers. And so there's people that are amazing at acne, let's say, or they're amazing with rosacea management. I'm going to take those people and I'm going to say, can you create a course on this? And that's what I've done. And so those people who are specialists in those areas have created courses, and people can take the courses with them or even sign up for a mentorship day with them. Now,
Wow.
when it comes to clinic training, if I'm going in and doing training at a clinic, I can either do it through just the clinic hires me and I go in and I train them on my methodology and what my practice experience is and how to use that device. Or if the manufacturer or distributor asks me and reaches out and says, can you train our team? Then I will train them on the buttonology
Hmm.
of how to use the device paired with a little bit of experience, because you
Hmm.
don't want them to run before they can walk. So you want them to walk first with the buttonology and then learn more.
Yeah, that's exciting. And where all do you do these trainings? I mean, I would
I
think they would
know.
have to be in person.
Some are in person, so some are online
Okay.
when it's theory. So when it's theory based, it's very easy to do online. It's
Hmm.
either live like this, or it could be an online course that we have through Dermaroom. But if it's hands on, then yes, it is live. And I'm primarily in Canada, but I have my career, I've been very blessed. I've traveled all over the world. I've worked in India. I have worked in Japan. I've worked in Korea. I've done the whole globe. I love it.
That's exciting. I mean, it just really broadens your horizons and being able to work in so many different areas. That's awesome.
It does, and what they see is totally different than what we see. And what
Hmm.
we think is important in North America is completely different than
Yeah.
what they think is important in other areas of the world.
Yeah. Wow. So tell me a little bit about some of the things that you actually treat when you're doing these laser treatments. Like, I know you mentioned acne, rosacea. What are the main ones that you're
Pigment,
seeing?
scarring, texture,
Hmm.
laxity. Because the clinic that I work at is very focused on the face and eyes in particular, we do a lot of eye treatment. So eyelid laxity and lifting, smoothing of the eyelid area. Very delicate and very difficult area to treat. So
Hmm.
it's very rewarding though.
Yeah, that's exciting. So when somebody is doing a laser treatment, like what do you do after? Do you just do the laser and you're good to go, or how does that work?
I wish it was like that. No,
Right.
you have
It's
homework.
magic.
I know. I give them actually a sheet and it's pre and post care. So I'm a really big proponent of pre care, meaning if you enter into a treatment, any treatment, I don't care what it is, even surgery, you enter in with the best skin you can, you'll have a better clinical outcome because not only will your results be better, but your healing will be better.
Mm,
So I really believe in pre-care. So I give a pre-care routine, and then that's usually up to 2 weeks before. And then afterwards, they have a routine, and that can be anywhere from 3 days up to 14 days of what their care looks like, depending on how ablative or non-ablative or how deep I've gone with the treatment. And so then they have specific things they have to do at home, and that's their homework. I
mhm.
do have a very strict follow-up that I do, and I know it's more than a lot of clinics do, but I like to follow my patients through until they're completely healed. So
Mm,
what I do is I tell them, what do you prefer? Do you prefer me to text you or email you every single day? Because I am going to bother you until you're healed. And everyone always says text. So then I'll text them first thing in the morning. I sit down, I have my tea, I message my patients. I'm like, tell me how everything's going, send me a picture. And I just make sure that they send me a picture. I look at everything, I make sure everything's okay, and then I give them advice. Sometimes they're healing so fast that I'll say, okay, you can get off whatever regime I have them on. Or
mhm.
sometimes I'll say you have to take it a little longer. But I found that by doing this, number one, I mitigate, a lot of adverse events that I could have. It also helps to ease when you know the person's right there with you the
Yeah.
whole way, and they have my contact. If they have any questions, they can like message me right away and I'll jump on the phone with them.
Hmm.
Um, so it's really a concierge service. It's a lot more, like I said, than a lot of people want to have to engage in. But if you can get that, even if it's not the practitioner, you can get that one person be able to do it that's assigned that in the clinic. If you're a big clinic, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Huge.
I can only imagine. I mean, just having somebody kind of walk you through that process. Because, like I said, you probably forget a lot of what was told to you when you leave because you're kind of overwhelmed
Yeah.
a little bit after having any kind of procedure.
Exactly. Imagine if I did a laser treatment on you. I mean, you have gorgeous skin, but let's say I did a full laser treatment on you and you had several days of downtime and you don't really know what to expect. And you're like,
Hmm.
is this normal? Is that normal? But you
Hmm.
knew that I was in contact with you every day. I kind of
Yeah.
just, and at the
Okay.
start of your
Easy.
day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, because that eases that anxiety a little bit. And then also some of those questions or thoughts that you might, think, oh my gosh, what is this? What is that? It kind of eases a little bit of that. So you already know what to expect. I mean, I always think
Yes.
about when I had my daughter, I had a doula and she would prep me and she'd tell me, like, this is what you're going to start to notice. And you might see this and you might see that. And I'm and it was it was completely different. I mean, it was my first experience. So but I felt so prepared and I was like, oh, this is what's happening now. And this is, so I went into it and, it was a really great experience for me because I already was prepared for it. So yeah, it makes such a huge difference.
Exactly. And maybe with a second or third child, you would have a slightly different experience because she wouldn't need to do as much hand
Hmm.
holding, right? And so
Right.
that's kind of what I do too with my patients. If they're going through a series of, let's say, 3 fractional ablative treatments, the first one I'm really holding their hand. The second one, I'm like, okay, you got this
Hmm.
one. I'm still going to message you every day. You still got to send me a picture, but I know we're not texting for 10 minutes, right?
Right.
Because they know what to expect.
Hmm. Is there ever a time where you've had someone not follow their pre-regimen and you're like, okay, we can't start the laser now?
Oh, I haven't had people with not with a pre, but with a post I have, and it's
Mm.
been disastrous with what some people will do. Yeah, I had somebody actually apply, you know, I think it was actually Noxzema or something like that on their face immediately
Oh,
after, and
oh my
burning and
gosh.
swelling, and then you have to get your medical director involved, and
Oh my
they have to
gosh.
go on something to take down the like a steroid to take down the swelling. I've had some things like that in the past. It's mostly with post care. Pre care
Hmm.
people are like they're all pumped, right? They're like, I
Yeah.
need to do this, but the minute that they've had the treatment, they're like after day one or two, they're like, ah, and then they wean off. So that's why
Hmm.
it's really important. If you're texting them every morning, they feel obligated, right?
Hmm. Yeah, that is true. Wow. There's so much that goes into it. I think that the post care, I can totally see patients kind of falling off the wagon or saying, oh, well, I don't see anything. How
Yeah.
long do you think usually when it comes to doing any kind of laser treatment, because, your skin has to regenerate and all of that, what does that time frame look like? And when do you set those expectations for people to actually see results?
People, depending on the modality.
Hmm.
So, depending on the modality, you can sometimes see what I call early results. So, either immediately after treatment or within the first week. Those are early results. But that's not when your full results are happening. That's not full collagen and full cell turnover, right? It's not when collagen's created. It's not when all your neoelastogenesis happens and angiogenesis. None of those things happen at that stage. Or even the breakdown of pigment doesn't happen at that 1 week stage. So I always tell them you want to give yourself about 3 months
Mm-hmm.
post treatment to really see full results. And some treatments even take up to 6 months to see full results, but mainly they peak around 3 months with most treatments.
Wow. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely needing to be patient and following up to make sure that, okay, I'm on the right track.
Exactly. And you know what? We look at ourselves every day. And so oftentimes I'll be texting with a patient, and after a week, and this just happened to me recently, after a week, she said to me, I don't know if I see any difference. And all I did
Hmm.
was I sent her before picture with the picture she sent me in the morning. And then she says, oh my. I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, because you saw yourself before the treatment,
Hmm.
then you saw yourself in massive swelling stages and redness and, looking kind of goopy everywhere. And now you look good. So now you're thinking you returned back to what you were. So
Hmm.
sometimes it's showing them before and after, and they're like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's true. Like I mean, that's the same when for anything. I've done a couple laser treatments before and I'm like, I don't know what you're seeing because I don't see any different. Everything looks the same to me. I don't know. But the practitioner or a doctor is always like, no, I can see like you got a different eye versus when we are getting stuff done ourselves.
Absolutely. And it's different when you're looking at yourself in a photo,
Hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, we're checking out our hair, or checking out this and that. It's a three-dimensional image. When you're looking at that image that's flat, that photo, it's
Hmm.
very different because you're looking at almost like another person,
Yeah.
and you can be a little bit more objective.
Hmm. That's good. So, your approach has been described as unapologetically results driven. What does that look like in everyday practice for you?
So my one goal with every patient is to meet their expectations. And a lot of people will say, well, I don't want to recommend this, it's too expensive, or I don't want to recommend that because we're not really promoting it or whatnot. I don't care how expensive it is. I don't care if you're promoting it or not promoting it. I don't care if it's new. It doesn't matter to me. Will it meet this patient's expectations? Will this help them to reach their goal? If that's the way it is, then
Hmm.
that's what they're getting from me. And if it means too, and I've had this where a patient will come to me and I know that what I have in my toolbox will not meet their expectation, I'm going to send them out to a colleague of mine.
Hmm.
Even if my colleague offers the same treatments as well as me, I'm willing to lose that patient so then they are able to get their treatment results that they need because they have one other modality that I don't have.
Yeah.
So it's really all about that patient experience because it will come back to you in spades.
Hmm. That is true. I love that. And so your education brand has been, it's, known globally. What values or mindset has helped you grow it so successfully?
I'm unwavering in my commitment to
Hmm.
education. I'm part of ASLMS. It's the oldest laser institution and an organization that has been in our space, and it's all about safety. And I push safety, I push education, and those are things that are really important to me. Those are things that are non-negotiable to me. And if I can make them either free or affordable, that's what I think is really important. And at the Derma Room, we didn't want courses that were so expensive that, in our space, it's nothing for us to pay $3,000 and $4,000 to go to even just a seminar.
Hmm.
It's crazy. It's so expensive. And so people will kind of pick and choose what they want to go to because they can't afford everything. And I
Right.
wanted to make it so that it's affordable for everyone. So again, it was offering affordable quality products that
Hmm.
people will be able to learn and grow their career with aesthetic medicine without breaking the bank.
Yeah. So, do you see people that are already in the clinic that are working as estheticians, or do you see more people that are like, hey, I think I want to get into this industry and, learn some stuff? Do they need to go through aesthetic training first and then come see you, or how does that work?
Definitely, they need to have aesthetic training first before
Hmm.
they take any like derma room courses or even have a mentorship day with me. But I have had phone calls with people who are interested in getting into our industry and they want to know more about it. And I'm more than happy to chat with them and explain how the industry works, what are the opportunities, those kind of things. But to really get into an advanced course,
Hmm.
you really need to have the basics first. And that's a basic aesthetic course, a basic cosmetic nurse course,
Mm.
anything like that will get you the tools you need to be able to get into more advanced education.
Yeah. I think that it's so important, especially when you're just learning. But I feel like that just opens so many doors when you kind of jump into that world and say, "Oh, there's so much more in aesthetics and dermatology versus just being at a spa that's just doing facials and things like that." So there's so much more to learn.
There is a lot more to learn, even in the clinics though that are doing some of the softer aesthetic services. So whether that's just facials and things like that, there are so many things within those facials, especially with
Hmm.
K beauty now being like the big thing.
Yeah.
Um, the ingredients, the regenerative medicine side of things, which are topical
Hmm.
on the skin, are really becoming at the forefront. And these are things that even those clinics can start getting into. And that's what's really important is graduating into, maybe they're not ready to get into all the energy based stuff. But if you want to get into and dip your toe into a little bit of the medical side, maybe
Hmm.
that's through the regenerative
Yeah.
medicine side. And
I
that's your
love that.
exosomes and your topicals, your PDRNs, all of those things.
Hmm. So, where do you see the biggest opportunities for innovation in this field right now?
Definitely longevity and anything regenerative.
Hmm.
So those are the two areas where we see huge growth. There's huge opportunity with it. With energy, it's now gotten to a point where it's just, how quickly can we deliver it to the skin, spot sizes, hole sizes when we're doing things. There's just nuances. It's not now, something completely new out there. It's very seldom
Hmm.
are we seeing something completely new. It's just nuances of what we already have. What's really new is the regenerative and longevity.
Yeah, I like that. I think a lot of people would be excited to learn more about that for sure. When it comes to like the collaboration, what are some things that you would like other practices to know and to understand?
The biggest thing I would say is that you have no competition. And I know that sounds really strange, but
Hmm.
I really realized this because I was in Toronto, Canada, in the core of what we call the plastic surgery center area, which is where all the plastic surgeons and dermatologists are for cosmetic medicine. And it's in an area called Yorkville. And literally across the street was one, and down the street was another. And on, it's to the left, to the right. It was crazy. And everyone said, how are you thriving? How are you not going crazy? Because there's so much competition. I said, they're not competition. And it's not that I have an ego. It's that there's enough people looking for different types of practices that fit them. A patient who fits me is not necessarily a patient who will fit these other practices. So you have to look at what is your patient profile. These are not your competition. Those are your patients. And also, as long as they're doing everything right, you're okay. My competition is the person down the street that's bought some, piece of equipment that is not permitted to be in Canada or the US. And it's a piece of equipment that's going to harm somebody and they have no education. Then I know all the patients that have circled through there will probably think that all of us in the field are crazy and won't want to come to us. So that's the person I'm worried about. I'm not worried about all the people doing the right stuff around me. And that's part of the collaborative thought process, is really to feel that way and live that.
Yeah, I love that. So my last question for you is, what is ahead? What is exciting for you moving forward for the Derma Room, or just in general, personally?
Well, I have so many things. I'm like you. I have so many things every day. If you ask me that question every day, it will be totally different.
Yep.
Drives my husband crazy. But for me, the really growing the Derma Room is very important, to make a footprint on and to have my legacy be that in this industry I've contributed, I've brought back to it, that Derma Room has been able to elevate the standards throughout the industry. And through personal practice, it's just continuing to grow, the aesthetic practice that I work with, iFace, and to, just elevate the patient experience. Every day that I see patients is just a joy. It really is. I'm very fortunate. And so I could never give that up.
Yeah.
But it's the combination of the two. And that's that trajectory that I'm going on.
Yeah, I love that.
Thank you. Ask me tomorrow.
Yeah, right. I know. I'm the same way. I'm like, let me write this in my note. I've got a huge notebook that I've got so many ideas and things in there. I'm like, all right, this is what I'm going to do January 1. Always try to launch something new. That's good though. It keeps us busy.
Exactly.
So, well, thank you so much, Tracey. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you and learning so much about all kinds of things in the aesthetic world. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate it. It's been an honor.
Thank you. Now a message from Sun Pharmaceuticals. For patients with locally advanced basal cell carcinoma who are not candidates for further surgery or radiation, hedgehog pathway inhibitors offer a targeted systemic approach. Staying current on these therapies can help you expand options for appropriate patients. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me and listening to That's Derm Good. You can expect new episodes of That's Derm Good every week. The podcast is available on your favorite app, including where you're listening right now. Subscribe to the podcast so you never miss a new episode. Bye.